China would reportedly like another round of negotiations and talks before actually signing the Phase 1 partial trade deal that President Trump announced on Friday. That is according to Bloomberg. And that was sending markets lower before the open. But right now, as we mentioned, the Dow is in the green. Whatever excitement there was on Friday about big progress in the trade war maybe has dissipated a little bit on that news. Let's check in with Jess Smith live in Washington with the details. Jess, what are you hearing over there about this report about what China wants in the ongoing trade talks?
Well, the Trump administration is stressing that Phase 1 is pretty much done. It just needs to be put on paper. But China is saying that after this latest round of talks in D.C., they made progress. So kind of a different message there. And we did hear from Secretary Mnuchin this morning as he talked to reporters at the White House. And he says there is an agreement in principle. He compared it to buying a building. He said you buy a building or you agree to buy a building and then you negotiate a contract. He laid out the next steps of what will happen. He says there will be deputy level calls this week, a principal level call next week, and then he expects deputies to meet in person, and then he and Ambassador Lighthizer will meet with the vice premier in Chile, and then the two leaders, President Trump and President Xi, would then theoretically meet in Chile or sometime around then to finalize the deal, to sign it. Tariffs will not go up tomorrow. They were supposed to go up from 25% to 30% tomorrow. That won't happen at this point because of this agreement. But the December 15th tariffs are still in play. Mnuchin said in an interview that those tariffs will happen, he thinks, if there is no deal. But he expects there to be a deal in place by then. Some are really skeptical about this, though, because there is at this point no plan to roll back any existing tariffs. Morgan Stanley analysts said in a note that tariff escalation remains a meaningful risk. So we'll be watching from any word on how these conversations, these phone calls go over the next couple weeks.
Jess, given what the Chinese now reportedly want, and that is a little bit more talking before they actually sign a deal, you wonder if on Friday the idea of a first level deal or Phase 1 deal was prematurely announced. And I remember when it was announced, or initially when there were reports that it was coming, we discussed whether it was early to call it any kind of deal. And sure enough, now here we are. It's really not yet done. It's really not yet official. And you wonder if this goes back to the narrative of the president or the administration sort of being too quick to say, oh, look, we got a deal, when, well, really, do we have a deal yet?
Well, at this meeting at the White House, when we saw this meeting with the Chinese delegation on Friday, the president did say that he thought it would take 3 to 5 weeks to get this on paper, but he didn't foresee any problems. And China is saying that there was progress made. They listed some of the specific issues that the president has said they've nailed down, like IP and ag purchases, some of those issues. So there definitely was progress. And Mnuchin seemed very confident this morning. He is really stressing that this is pretty much done. It just needs to be put on paper. Whether that is true, we'll have to see. But he did say regarding that Bloomberg report that China wants more in-person talks. He says no one's afraid of travel. No one's afraid of work. He said if there need to be more in-person talks before the meeting in Chile, then fine, that would happen. But at this point, what they have scheduled are phone calls and then meetings right before that summit with the two leaders.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.